Okay, well, thank you guys for being here for my artist talk. I'm really excited to talk to you guys today about my new series. These are all my newest paintings that I've been working on. So I'm Brittany Cosgrove. I'm a Columbus acrylic painter. I've been painting for about 7 years now. This is, of course, Raw Gallery. If you're not familiar, OAL shares this wall. George Leach is the gallery owner, so the works that you see around here are a lot of his works and in his personal collection. So thanks, George, for allowing OAL to have this space and and allowing me to speak today. And Laura, I work with Laura at OAL. So I work part-time at Ohio Art League, just helping out with social media and like the newsletter and website design and just anything really that they need help with. So yeah. So just a little bit about me. That's my family there. Me and Nick have two little boys. Forrest is 3.5, and Roland just turned 1. And we have 2 cats, Choo Choo and Tio. They were strays that showed up at our house. They're also brothers. I have a chinchilla that I got in college, so he's turning 12 this year, I believe. And just a few of my hobbies. I love to garden, so I grow a bunch of flowers and vegetables and herbs in our yard. That's a sunflower that I grew last year, and then some of the veggies that I grew. I love to hike and camp, so that's a picture of me on Peralta Trail in the Superstitions in Arizona. It's one of my favorite trails. So getting into painting, really I've been drawing my whole life. And I've always had a love for art, and I got into it probably first or second grade. My parents signed me up for a drawing class at the rec center in Grove City, and the art teacher at the time was Paul Richmond. He was a CCAD student, and I believe this was a summer class, so it was multiple sessions throughout the summer. We learned all sorts of things about shading and drawing, and one thing that I learned that really stuck with me was when drawing a picture, not to just make it a tiny little picture on a larger piece of paper, to actually like fill up the space on the entire paper, and that's something that I think about a lot with my drawing. So at the end of that drawing class, Paul pulled me and my parents aside, and he told them that I really have a knack for this, and that if I was interested, I could join his Saturday art class. Every Saturday, he had a group of kids that he would teach. We would go Saturday mornings and just paint for a couple hours together, and I did that for years. And I learned so much from those classes just about using acrylic paint and shading and color and texture. So I have a couple of my early paintings here that I did in that class, a desert scene and the horse and the ocean scene here. So that one I entered in Arts in the Alley. Arts in the Alley happens every year in Grove City, and I still enter. They have youth competitions and kids competitions and like fine art competitions on all different mediums. So it's a really great competition, and I won awards as a kid. So that was really fun to do that. And then, I love to paint, but I had some other outlets as well for art. I crocheted with my mom and my grandma. They taught me how to crochet. And me and my mom would take sewing classes at Joann Fabrics. So just any outlet really, just to be creative. I just have always loved to do that sort of thing. And I did kind of get away from drawing probably in about 5th and 6th grade. I started band in school. I started getting really involved with sports. So painting and drawing kind of took a backseat while I started to really get into those things. And I really didn't do much with art through middle school and high school. I was in the art club in high school, and I did a photography class, which came in handy a lot. I learned how to use Photoshop in photography class in high school, which I still use to this day. So I'm really thankful that I actually took that one art class. But and art club, one thing that I really loved to do was every year we would have a competition with all of the local high schools in the area. It was called Feats of Clay. Has anyone ever heard of that by chance? So they still do it. And yeah, they just once a year they get all the high schools together, and we have a team that we kind of practice for this throughout the year. And at Pizza Clay, there's different competitions that we would do. One of them was our team had to take clay and coil it from the ground up, and whichever school could coil the largest structure, basically, and keep it standing. It had to stand for like 5 minutes or something without falling over. That was really fun. Another one was mug throwing. So we would be on the clay throwing wheel, and one person would be like making mugs, and one person would be making the handles, and one person would be making the balls of clay to throw onto the wheel. And so our team had to basically create as many mugs as possible in the allotted time. So yeah, that was just a really fun artsy thing that I did in high school, and I still do ceramics to this day. I take a class at the Thompson Center with Delyn Stenziano. So yeah, moving away from art, I got into music and I loved that. I played clarinet. I got into clarinet because my mom already had one and it was already in our house. So I played it in band in school. When I was little, me and my friends liked to pull the clarinet out. It was in our basement and we would squeak on the clarinet and pretend like we were Squidward from SpongeBob SquarePants. So then I actually learned how to play it in school, and in middle school I continued to play in the symphony, and I got into jazz band. I played keyboard in the jazz band. In high school I started to learn saxophone, and so I played bari sax in jazz band in high school, and I loved that, and I just was really interested in learning different instruments. It fascinated me that, clarinet and saxophone were so similar to each other. And just the fact that they were similar but had these differences, and of course they sound so much different from each other. So I got really into just learning different instruments. I played in my first pit orchestra when I was in high school. I played in Seussical the musical, and pit orchestras really fascinated me because with a pit, they're used for operas and musicals, of course, and it's a smaller ensemble. There's not a whole lot of room in a pit, like right in front of the stage. So often the musicians will play multiple instruments, especially the wind players. You'd have like a reed book, and the wind players might have a B-flat clarinet and a tenor sax and a flute and a piccolo, anywhere between like 3 and 5 instruments. And I loved that, being able to like switch between the different instruments. And just like I wanted to continue that in high school and college, just kind of working towards, my goal was to play in pit orchestras professionally. So yeah, so I majored in music performance at Otterbein, and I continued learning all these different instruments. I have a couple lists here. One is all of the different kinds of ensembles that I got involved with. And then most of the instruments that I either performed on or played on, performed on or taught. And so I enjoyed that. I continued it into grad school. I went to Arizona State for my grad degree, and continued with music performance. So yeah, moving out west was really impactful just to my creative journey and life experience in general. I'd never really left Columbus before. And then all of a sudden moving to a city where I knew nobody. And it was just so beautiful out there. It's incredible to see all of the mountains, and the plants and the flora and fauna really fascinated me. I'd just never seen cactuses that grew the way that they do out in the desert, and I had no idea that they flowered even. And they get these beautiful, colorful flowers, like any kind of color that you can imagine. So I got really into hiking. The weather's always beautiful there, so we're outside all the time. I drew a little bit. I have a butterfly there that I drew in college, but really I didn't do much still with art. I was performing a lot. I have a picture of me in a symphony there, and then a clarinet ensemble. I have a contra alto clarinet on the far right there. And then that's another hike that is one of my favorites. It's called the Flatiron. It's outside of Phoenix. So it's like 40 minutes outside of Phoenix. It takes all day to get up on top of this mountain. It's like a 4,000 foot elevation game. It's one of the hardest hikes I've ever done, but just really cool, really inspiring with my art, and you'll see later on I do some sort of landscapes that are inspired by this. So, okay, so I have a little video just to show you what I did in college. As a music performance major, getting your graduate degree is required to do 2 solo recitals, and it has to be an hour of just you playing. Typically, there's one song that they don't want you to have any accompaniment with. That's only you on stage, nobody else. Most of it you can have an accompanist, a pianist with you. And then you can have one piece where you invite other musicians on stage. So this is the last piece that I did on my last recital in my graduate degree. It's a Mendelssohn concertino, and I'm actually playing something called a basset horn, which is essentially a large clarinet. It's not really used a whole lot today. It's not really written for in modern music, but Mendelssohn wrote for it. Okay. So that just gives you a little glimpse of my life as a musician and kind of what I worked towards. Obviously not visual art related, but it really did impact the way that I've approached my artistic career and my just creative process. Music was just such a great creative outlet for me. Live performance was really fascinating to me too, because studying this, you get to see different people perform the same piece. And there's just so much variation in just the way that somebody will interpret a piece, just with using different timbres and volume and speed. And I thought that was really interesting, especially with pit orchestra playing too. So throughout grad school, I played for quite a few different musicals and operas. I played for Les Mis and Into the Woods, a few Donizetti operas, Life and Love of Joe Coogan. So quite a few through my graduate and undergraduate degree. And one thing that really fascinated me with that was, you practice the piece as an ensemble. And then the week of the performances, that's when you get to perform everything on stage with the musicians and the singers and the performers and dancers. And so you get to see all of it come together. And you may perform the same opera or musical 8 or 10 times in the matter of course of 2 weeks. And every single one is different. You're all playing the same music. It's the same people on stage. It's the same people in the pit, but every performance is a little different. So I really enjoyed that. Another thing that I think really impacted me with doing performances like this, working towards being able to play for an hour in front of people and practicing all of that really challenging repertoire, was just learning to live with like the nerves of getting on stage like that. And it never really got easier. But I did learn to just accept it and be comfortable with it. And I think that's really helped me as an artist too, in that just going out and putting my art out there, talking to galleries and, reaching out and applying for festivals and that sort of thing. I feel like this has really helped me in that aspect of my artistic career. So I graduated in 2017. At that point, I was living in downtown Phoenix. I performed in the Tempe Symphony and the Tempe Winds. I was playing in a funk band, a bar band, which was really fun. I played keyboard and some jazz flute with them. So we did all sorts of fun events, like we would play at parks and festivals. And one of my favorite things we would do was play for the Rock and Roll Marathon, which would happen in Phoenix every year. And it was a marathon that every mile marker, there would be a different band playing. So it was super fun. So we were one of the bands that played at the Rock and Roll Marathon. But so getting back into paint, I lived in an apartment in Scottsdale when I was in school with a few other people, and somebody left these 3 canvases in the garage. They were just sitting in the garage collecting dust, and we were in college and didn't have any art on our walls, so I figured I would take these 3 panels and paint something on them. So after graduation, Nick and I, was my fiance at the time, we decided to take the biggest road trip that we had taken thus far, and we took 2 weeks and we went from Phoenix to Seattle, and then back down along the California coast. Sorry, quick break. And so what I wanted to do was, at the end of this trip, paint something that inspired me. The most inspiring thing I thought that I had seen on this trip. And we packed up my Ford Focus hatchback with some camping gear. We didn't know where we were going to sleep at night. We just stopped wherever we could on the way, and we ended up seeing, I think, 8 different national parks. So we went to Zion, we went to the Grand Canyon, Zion, Bryce Canyon, and then up to the Grand Tetons through Yellowstone, and then over to Seattle. We spent a day in Seattle, and then traveled down the coast and saw the Redwoods, San Francisco, and then we cut into Yellowstone and stayed in the Sequoia National Forest. So it was an awesome trip, and I had to pick something from that trip that I wanted to paint. And what I ended up choosing was actually something that, it was a place we didn't even plan to go outside of Seattle. We originally were going to go to Mount Rainier, but we decided to go to Olympic National Park instead. We didn't even know this even existed, but we were just at a random bar in Montana one night, and somebody told us at this bar that it was a must-see. So we went out of our way and we visited Olympic, and I'd never seen anything like it. Has anyone been? Okay, it's a lot of old growth rainforests. Just very beautiful. I'd never been to a rainforest before. It is a contemporate rainforest. So that's what I ended up painting. The picture here is some of my inspiration. That's a picture of the Hoh rainforest in Olympic. Just all these real old growth trees covered in moss. So this is what I painted on those panels. Yeah, this was the first painting I'd completed in years and years, and I was really happy with how it turned out. I ended up selling it, actually. And that really inspired me to think maybe on the side while I'm performing, I can make a little bit of extra money painting too. So I started to paint on the side. Oh, actually, in this last slide, you can kind of see my setup. It was just on the floor of our kitchen. I had a mat laid out. I didn't have a studio or an easel or anything. I just painted on our kitchen floor. But I made a lot of paintings on our kitchen floor. Here's a few of them. So yeah, I did a lot of desert flowers and succulents. Just a lot of things that I saw around Phoenix, and just on our hikes and our travels. I did quite a few larger scale landscapes too. So that one is the Grand Canyon. It's a hike that I did with a friend. The photos that I used for reference were from our hike. It was right when we started the hike. We were at the top of the canyon. It was Bright Angel Trail, which is a real popular one to take. It was snowing that morning. It was very cold. We woke up at the crack of dawn, and we hiked down into the canyon. So you can see here, there's like a little strip of green, which is called the Indian Gardens. And it's very lush down there. It was like probably 60 degrees. And there's a little river that goes through it. And then we hiked all the way out to here. So that's called Plateau Point. At that point, once you leave the Indian Gardens, it's all desert. And you're just surrounded by the canyon walls. They all kind of come up around you. It's really interesting. Just all prickly pears and very dry, probably 70, 80 degrees. So seeing that contrast from snow to like 80 degrees was pretty wild. So I wanted to paint that. That's one that I won't sell. Now it's in my personal collection. So I continued to perform. After grad school, I taught 40 students. I taught all sorts of different instruments, mostly guitar, piano, and then of course all the woodwinds as well. And I got into painting. I worked with a couple different galleries, and I started doing some commissions, and yeah, so I got into that. I also got into live painting. So that's a picture of me live painting for an event. These are some of the first commissions that I did. So what this is Nick was working at for a sales team at the time, and everyone in his sales team was given a plaque to put on their desk, and they had to put their name on it and decorate it. And so a lot of them hired me to paint their plaques for them. So those were fun. I especially liked the astronaut sloth there in the corner. So unfortunately, art battles aren't a thing in Columbus, but they are in Phoenix, and they're in different major cities around the US, and they are international. I did 4 or 5 of these art battles in Phoenix. I'm hoping maybe we can get them started in Columbus sometime, but they're really fun. There would be 6 easels in a circle. They would provide the canvas and the paints, and there were 3 rounds, so 6 people in each round. And basically you had 20 minutes to paint whatever you could, as fast as you could, on this painting with the supplies that they give you. Usually they were outdoors, and like all the audience would kind of circle around and watch as we painted. So those were really fun. And then they pick 3, so it's a voting system. Everyone who's in the audience can vote for their favorite. And then the final people go on to the final round. And if you win at a Phoenix art battle, then you can go on to regionals, which I did once go on to regionals, but it was during COVID, so it was online. So I never made it past regionals, but it does go to like national and international too. Oh, this is just one of the galleries that I worked with in Phoenix. It was a really interesting style gallery. This guy had this massive space. It had studio spaces and a classroom, and his whole theme was orange bunnies. It was just all very bright and colorful. He sold like art supplies and all sorts of stuff. So I painted quite a few paintings for his gallery. And so these are all paintings that he sold in that gallery. this is kind of where the fascination with glass for me started. I started to kind of do these geometric designs in the backgrounds of my paintings. And those sold really well at this gallery. His theme was orange bunnies too, which was fun. Like throughout the gallery, there would be different figures of orange bunnies. So I painted a couple different orange bunnies for his gallery. Oh, and okay, so this is my wedding dress. I made my own wedding dress. And yeah, just going back to the sewing classes that me and my mom would take when I was little. At the time, Nick was teaching, actually. He was teaching high school chemistry, and I was painting and performing, so we didn't have the money for this big elaborate wedding or me to spend thousands of dollars on a dress. And also, I'm very picky and particular about things, so I ended up just making it myself, and that was a really fun project. I did get into some murals in Phoenix as well, and I still do murals. I'll do commission murals every once in a while currently. But these are some that I did in a dance studio. That was a big learning curve for me, just figuring out how to like lay out the design and figuring out how to make the proportions correct. I figured out at this point how to use a projector. So the dancers I projected onto the wall and then sketched it from the projection, which I use that technique a lot for my larger paintings now. Depending on the design, I will use a projector. So yeah, at this point I was getting a lot of commissions and performing more, and me and Nick decided to move to a high-rise in Phoenix with the goal of spending a few years there and getting more into performing, and then COVID happened. So the week after we moved into this high-rise apartment, we were on the 20th floor, everything shut down, and so all my performances were canceled. I had to move all of my lessons, all the 40 students that I taught, online. So that was a challenge, and it's definitely not ideal. Like, I lost a lot of students just because my older students just didn't want to figure out the technology. My younger students couldn't sit in front of a screen for that long. And I had students aging, my youngest was 3 and my oldest was 86. So everywhere in between, all sorts of different skill levels and ages. So that was a big challenge. It worked out for quite a few of them though, and some of them I even continued to teach when I moved here. But yeah, that just changed my perspective on everything. And me and Nick really had to think about what we were going to do. Were we going to stay in this high rise? And we weren't really sure what was going to happen with the world. Or should we move back to Midwest and be with family and start our own family? So that's what we ended up doing. We moved a year after moving into this apartment. I got pregnant. We drove cross country pregnant with my cat and my Jeep full of houseplants, and we bought a house sight unseen. So that was really nerve-wracking. Yeah, we had a great realtor. Thankfully, he would go around and video chat with us and show us around the house. We ended up buying this, it's about 130-year-old house in Franklin Park. It's a little 4-square house, and so that's where we're at now. And I obviously had Forrest. I had my first baby and just kind of started over with my career. I got into teaching at the Grove City Rec Center, which was like a full circle moment for me because that's where it all started. And I started doing the Arts in the Alley competitions again, another full circle moment. And so yeah, that's a picture of me with the mayor of Grove City. I won the Floral Helena McComb Award for that painting. And again, you can see the kind of the glass-like background. So I've done a little bit of live painting here too. For a while I was going to Brothers Drake Meadery. It's not there anymore. It's not in their downtown location. I think they're in Clintonville now, maybe. But at the time they were in just right off of High Street. And Wednesdays they would have jazz nights. So I would go during their jazz nights and paint while the jazz band was playing. So yeah, so that was really fun. Definitely something I want to get back into, more of the live painting. I'm taking a little bit of a break from that just with babies. And but I do have a gig in the fall. I'm going to do my first live wedding painting. So yeah, so that'll be fun. This is some of my recent commissions that I've been working on. The saxophone there is actually an older one I did in Phoenix, but I was commissioned recently to add the 2 other instruments to that, so it's like a triptych. I do a lot of pet portraits. I've started doing some digital work as well and some portraits. So portraits are a new thing for me, and just painting figures as well. I've always been very intimidated by that, and but I'm starting to get into it. So my commission process currently, especially with larger paintings, I tend to do it all on Photoshop now. So for this one, for an example, I was given this picture of the boat, and then they told me that they wanted me to put it on a tropical beach with palm trees. And so I created that in Photoshop. So this is my Photoshop image. And then I can send that Photoshop image back and forth with my client, and we can tweak it. So I ended up with this one switching the boat. We chose a different boat to use in the painting, and then adjusting like how close the boat was to the beach. And then once we decide on something that they like in the Photoshop version, then I will paint it. So there's the actual painting there on the right. So yeah, one really fun thing I've gotten into in the past couple of years is doing arts festivals. I was accepted into the Emerging Artist program for Columbus Arts Festival and Upper Arlington Arts Festival a couple of years ago. So that taught me all of the logistics of doing something like this, which is a lot. Just getting the tent set up, finding a way to hang your artwork, and finding a way to kind of set up your booth display, pricing everything, doing prints. A lot of people do prints for visual art for these kinds of art festivals, and then like accepting payments. And of course, there's the logistics of being outside, out in the elements with all of your artwork. So I do really enjoy doing these festivals. I don't have any scheduled this summer. I'm taking a little bit of a break from it, just with babies. It is a lot to find childcare for the weekend for an event like this. But yeah, so that's something that I've been doing recently that I really enjoy. So for those festivals, and I do some craft shows, like little art shows as well. I'll make miniature paintings for those, just to have like a range of price points. These are some mini paintings that I've done for those shows, and this also kind of led me into this series as well, because I could sit there at my booth while people would come in and just paint with my paint pens. So I used acrylic paint pens for most of these, and started with kind of the dark lines and then filling in the different like glass sections, basically. So a lot of people ask me why I chose glass. And I've always really enjoyed being in spaces with large windows. Being in that 20th floor high rise was really inspirational for me, because it had floor to ceiling windows and just being able to look out on the city. I loved that. There's a picture of Franklin Park Conservatory there, which is near our house. And yeah, I love being in spaces that have those large windows. Rarely have I gotten the pleasure to be in a space with stained glass, especially large scale stained glass. But I have been to Westminster Abbey in London. A couple years ago, Nick took a business trip out there, and I tagged along, and while he was working for the week, I had free reign to just explore and go wherever. So I tried to go to all the art museums and the National Gallery and the British Museum. And one of my favorite things out in London was Westminster Abbey, just with how grand and beautiful those windows are, and seeing how they changed and how the atmosphere changed when the lighting changed. And yeah, I loved that. I thought it was really fascinating. Yeah, and just the craftsmanship of it too. I know it's not often you see an art form mimicking another art form, but yeah, I've gained so much respect for stained glass artists just in the way that they can cut the glass so precisely and take all of these smaller pieces and fit them together into a larger piece. It's just very fascinating for me. So yeah, bringing us to my series here, I actually worked on all of these paintings at the same time. I put all the base coats down at once, just for the sake of time. I have 2 children, so my painting time in my studio is a little bit limited right now. So I was experimenting to see if I could kind of shorten the process and cut some time out. And it did work, just doing all the base coats at once. And then I did all the drawing sketches at once. And then going in with the paint pen with the black lines. And then you can see in this picture is like just a base color. Here's with the dark lines and then the base color. And then the final step is I'll go in and add in the detail. And these are some of the tools that I ended up using for some of these paintings. This one here and this one as well are actual windows. They're grisaille panels in Germany. They originate in Cologne, Germany. So these are in chapels in Germany. Some of these paintings are my own designs, and some of them are actual windows that exist somewhere in the world. So those 2 paintings are from these monastery chapels. And I was really fascinated by the designs of these. They're actually smaller pieces of larger windows. Yeah, and I found these images just in a library book. It was like a coffee table book with different stained glass images. And these are both a section of like a larger window. So you can see that one I just took like a little panel of it. And this as well is kind of the outside of a larger picture that depicts like different saints and biblical stories. But yeah, creating those designs was very difficult, I found. Just getting the circles to line up. Like this one, you can see there's a larger circle with 5 smaller circles on the inside. And then there's like kind of a larger loop. I probably had to erase that and paint over it and retry like 4 or 5 different times to actually get the dimensions right. So yeah, just the fact that these windows were originally made in the 1200s. And just, I mean, the scale of them, they're massive. And I'm fascinated to learn more about how they were able to create something like that at the time and not like break it. I mean, they still exist too, so they've lasted almost a century. So that's really amazing to me. And then a few of these other paintings are Art Nouveau style. So there's the originals that inspired my paintings. Obviously, I did them like pretty exact. This far one is a design by Andrew Gascoigne. So that was at the turn of the century. And these are around 1910s. And that one is actually pretty popular. It's been recreated quite a few times. But I really liked the design of those. This one, I really liked the symmetry. I've used a lot of symmetry in my artwork. And I thought that was very pretty. This one, I was really drawn to the pattern and the colors. I don't usually use a lot of red in my paintings, But I really liked the colors that were used in that one. And then the far one, just again, getting into like drawing more figures and figuring that out. So I wanted to try and match an actual window that contained a figure in it. And then some of these are my own designs. These inspired some of my own designs. Well, this one's not. This one, I couldn't find the actual artist that created this painting. But yeah, I copied that design pretty exact here. But that image I just found on an auction site and I liked it. So I wanted to recreate that. I do a lot of bird paintings. I've done a lot of bird commissions. I sell a lot of birds at my festivals. So I did a few birds for this. The pine siskins and then the saw-whet owl. Those are both native to Ohio. The dragonfly too, I've been getting into doing more like larger than life insect paintings and just nature paintings in general. So I wanted to do a dragonfly, and then the background of this is based off of this Tiffany magnolia panel. So that's actually in the Tiffany Mansion in New York City. So my final painting that I did for the series was this large one here. I really wanted to just get out of my comfort zone with this painting and paint a figure. This painting represents Mother Earth in the circle of life. So we have like kind of a goddess figure. Actually, one of my most recent commissions is on the screen here. And I was commissioned to paint the goddess Calypso coming out of the ocean. And so I really enjoyed that. And I wanted to kind of continue with the goddess theme, but make it more stained glass. I feel like this one almost came out like a mosaic, but kind of along that theme, just with the different plants representing growth and life, and the circle of life, and the trees wrapping around the outside. All of their roots are kind of connected, just showing how that everything in the world is connected. All nature is connected. So that's all that I've got for you. Thank you so much for coming. Does anyone have any questions about anything?
Well, I see in one of your very earliest paintings there that you were already doing textile.
Yes.
Even though you said you had not seen them or seen them bloom.
Exactly. Yeah, it's always been fascinating for me.
Like, yeah, you said that sort of circle came around with
Yeah, I wanted to add that one into the slide for that reason. Just like a precursor to what came later on.
And
So.
why acrylics?
Oh, that's a good question. I guess that's what Paul taught me in that class, and I just have always done it. I have tried oils, and I have a set of oils that I got recently. But I've been doing acrylics for so long, and I'm so used to the fact that they dry so quickly, and I've learned how to compensate for that. And I kind of enjoy it because I can move so quickly too, and then it's dry and I can add more layers more quickly. And with oils, of course, you can blend for longer and you have more time to do that kind of manipulation with the paint. But it's just like I don't know, it's very different for me to use the oils, and I'm afraid I'm going to smudge it. And so, yeah, I've just always stuck with paint, mainly because I did it so much when I was a kid. Thank you. Yeah.
I'm still curious about how you made the shift from doing paintings of things into breaking it up into stained glass-like sections.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, I think stained glass is beautiful. I mean, for one thing, and also like the fact that you don't see it a whole lot. Like, you don't get to see stained glass a whole lot unless you're in a religious setting. And also it's very, very expensive if you were to like buy your own stained glass window or commission your own window. So part of this too is kind of to make stained glass a little bit more accessible. And portable, yes, exactly. Because I find them so beautiful, and I wanted to have more stained glass in my house, but I mean, we just can't afford to buy actual stained glass windows, at least not currently. So this is just kind of a way around that. And I'm fascinated with how the light changes and can shine through the windows. So I want to continue this series and continue studying stained glass and just try to mimic the way that light shines through glass and see how far I can go with that with painting.
You
So.
succeeded at that.
Thank you.
When I saw yours online,
Yeah.
I thought we were going to see physical stained glass like George's.
Sure.
And I got here and I thought, wait a minute. But sitting back here, the one in the middle.
Oh, this one?
It could be,
Yeah.
you know?
Thank
It's
you.
amazing.
I appreciate it. Yeah, that's a great compliment.
You achieved what you wanted to achieve there, for sure.
Yeah, that's the goal ultimately. Yeah, and I'd love to eventually, study more chapels and go to Europe and go and actually paint more like chapel windows and all of that. I think it's so neat. So I will continue this. And another thing too, I'll mention that was a big part of just how I got onto this, breaking up the lines and all the bold dark lines. Is a project that I'm going to get into this summer, and that's tattooing. So I'm going to start doing that here soon, and that obviously is a lot of bold, dark lines. So also, the series is kind of a way for me to practice that style as well.
It'll fit right in.
Yeah, they are similar in a way.
You're going to start giving tattoos or
Mhm.
getting tattoos? Or
I
painting
am.
tattoos?
That's a good question. Yeah, no, I have a tattoo machine, and I've been practicing on fake skins, which are basically just sheets of silicone. And I have all the sanitization equipment, and all of that. I just need to practice it more and then find a studio space to do it. So, yeah.
So you said at some of the art festivals and whatever,
Mhm.
and it's common to sell maybe prints. So these are
Yes.
your originals,
These are my originals.
but you will make prints of these.
I plan to. Yeah. Yeah, with the festivals, my ultimate goal would be to have an entire booth theme of stained glass and have all of my paintings and prints as well be this style. And that's pretty typical when you go to an arts festival. Each booth, the artists tend to have one theme. And so that's my goal when I do get back into the festivals when my kids are a little bit older, is to have this as my theme.
So you're obviously so multi-talented, but have you given thought, or could you ever see yourself moving into actually doing stained glass?
Oh, yeah.
creations?
Yeah, definitely. I would love that. Definitely down the road. 'Cause I mean, I've never done it before. I guess George obviously knows more about that, but I feel like there is a big learning curve to that. And of course, all of the materials and everything. So, but yes, I would
Yeah,
absolutely
Franklin
love that.
Art Glass
Mhm.
company right here in Columbus.
Right.
Beautiful.
Yeah, someday in the future, that would be a really fun project for me to actually, and I would even love to kind of take some of my own designs, like the birds or something, and try to recreate that in an actual stained glass piece. I think that would be so fun.
Yeah.
Hmm.
You could do that.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm looking at your piece, it made me want to put a light behind it, see if it helps the stained glass.
Oh, sure.
Light through the canvas would brighten up the painting itself, a light box or something.
It might. Yeah. In fact, it probably would. You'd probably see more of the base color.
I think I'm going to try that.
Yeah. You'll have to let me know.
There are transparent acrylics.
Sure.
Will pass through easily, so
Mhm.
you might be able to work out, find a substrate you can paint on.
Oh yeah, like a
I don't know.
plexiglass or something. Yeah, I've even thought about painting windows. Like actually, so our old house that we bought, we actually replaced all of the windows last year or 2 years ago, and I did keep some of the old windows with the goal to like do something artistic with them. So I want to try and paint them. I just haven't figured out like how to do that. I've never painted on glass before, so.
There's glass paints that they make for that purpose.
Sure. Mhm.
Look has them, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And they're a little bit smelly, but they work fine.
Okay, good to know. Yeah, I definitely want to look into that because they're just sitting in my basement right now collecting dust.
You
So.
just got nothing else to do now.
I know, yeah. I've just got so much free time for that sort of thing. No, someday I will do something with them.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got a whole stack. I think I have like probably 8 or 10 of these old windows. So,
Were they from the hand-blown flat glass era?
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I wish I had pictures of them, but they're really pretty. They actually have, I'm not sure what it's called, but so they're, rectangle, and then there's bars, and then there's actually a little bit of a design in the bars. Like they have this kind of triangle design. So it is paneled.
Yeah. Yep.
Exactly. Yeah.
In your spare time.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I'd like to see those.
Yeah, I'll definitely share them when I do something with them. Mhm. Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you, Brittany.
Yeah.
Share it.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming.